Well, good morning. Out here, one of my spots, doing a devotional reading. Reading today fell on the book of Esther, and the story of which many of us know. And just reading it again refreshed my memory and reminded me of what a great thing God did and how God positioned her. And you might know that Esther became queen, but only after the king, Ahasuerus, I believe his name is, Ahasuerus, maybe saying it incorrectly, but he became dissatisfied with Vashti, who was the former queen. And so she disobeyed him, and of course in that day, men just, ran women like crazy, but he wasn't happy with her, so decree went out, replace her, find me somebody else. And so Mordecai, who served the king, had raised Esther as a daughter. She was not a daughter, but because of circumstances, he raised her as his daughter. And so he managed to help persuade the king to choose Esther. Now, even though women were subjugated in that day, Esther wasn't mistreated, but Mordecai knew that her being a Jew in this Gentile kingdom, with Jews being in captivity, that the king's influence was strong, and Mordecai knew that, sensed even maybe that Esther being in that position as the queen would come into would be important for her to be in that position at some point. Well, sure enough, there's a story that goes on to summarize. A man named Haman was a racist. He wanted all the Jews destroyed, and he put together a plot to have them all destroyed in one day, and got the king to agree to that by some other, manipulation. The king, this king wasn't very smart. He just was a man with authority, and we've seen people, who are not smart with authority. Anyway, the king signed a decree, put it in writing, orders went out, and he had his army prepared to go into all that province, in that area, and destroy every Jew, man, woman, child, because Haman wanted that done. Well, Mordecai, again, who had access to the king through the eunuchs and people who served around the king, found out the plot. And so, of course, he was distressed and went to fasting and prayer and all that. And of course, he realized that Esther was the queen. And so that when Mordecai informed Esther of this plot, then, of course, she was grieved. Now, understand, she was a Jew. The king did not know she was a Jew, right? Because people all look the same, right? It wasn't like, being black and white, Esther looked like everybody else around there, and which wasn't Scandinavian. I'll leave it at that. But here's the thing. But Esther had her reservations. But Mordecai came to her and made it clear to her that, this is why God put you in this position. And he said those famous words, that you've come to the kingdom for such a time as this. And so that's when the providence of God, the purpose of God revealed itself, and Mordecai explained to her, and Esther embraced it. And so she purposed to go speak to the king. The problem is, if the king did not call you and you came into the court, then you were subject to be killed by an unannounced visit. But Queen Esther, she put her garment on. She was already beautiful, and she had favor. And so she used her favor. She used her privilege, right? Esther was in a position of privilege as the queen, and her appearance, right? And so she went to the king's court, and if the king did not extend his scepter to you, then you were to be taken off and killed. But she first fasted and prayed. Then she dressed herself up. Right? She didn't just trust her good looks. She prayed. Then she went into the king's court, and he saw her and immediately extended his scepter, and so that she was able to come on into court. And long story made short, a lot of things happened there, but long and short of it was, she then persuaded the king not to heed the words of Haman, not to follow through with the plan. And in fact, one thing Mordecai did say, if you remain silent, God may work some other way, but don't think you'll escape, right? Because you are a Jew. Now, you're up in here with all this favor, and you're the queen, and you look like them, but you're not one of them. And when they find out that you are a Jew, they're going to kill you with all the rest of the Jews that have been determined to be exterminated. And so that was another reason why she acted and to persuade the king not to follow that horrible decree of genocide. So long and short of it is, all of us have to recognize we have been positioned one way or another. And we have arrived at places in life, have attained a certain favor. We have a certain level of privilege, meaning that you can do things other people cannot easily do. All of us have privilege. We know about white privilege. There's also privilege just of being a certain age, being a black man. I got some privileges. I can go down the hood easily and not, cause a stir. I can get things done. I mean, all of us have privilege. Recognize that wherever you are now, you're not there just to serve your own purpose. You are not there just to get what you can get. Or one person said, you're not here to get all you can all you get, and sit on the can. That's not why you are alive. If you're a believer, you are not here just to consume and be happy. You are here to serve God's purpose, and eventually that purpose leads you to help other people, even to save the lives of other people. Now, I've been posting a lot of things on Facebook. I shared with a friend of mine. He said, "Oh, you become a radical." I said, "Man, see, now, don't you buy that. Anybody that speaks up is not a radical, all right? Y'all know I'm not crazy. Y'all know where I am. You know who I am. And if it wasn't real, I wouldn't go there, right? I'm not that guy. Yeah, I'm radical in the sense that if radical means I'm not silent, if radical means I'm speaking up, speaking the truth in love, being clear and firm, and yet not going off the rails, all right, call me radical. I just think it's the new normal, right? I think speaking up and being clear and speaking very explicitly is the new normal, right? So we're in a season where there's protests, which peaceful protests are always acceptable. Rioting is unacceptable under any circumstances. We know what's happening. We've seen the news. One person posted that says, racism hasn't gotten worse. It's just being filmed now, right? Now, listen, let me say a couple things and wrap up here. We got to stop mincing words, right? So when we say racism, we are talking about racism against black people. Well, black folks are racist too. Well, yes, in the sense that we can have a bad attitude and say things wrong, but we have no power. Black folk do not control. We don't control stuff. So a racist black person is not going to be a problem for you, all right? But a racist white person in a position of power is a big, gigantic problem. And as I've been saying over and over again in my posts, you don't solve racism through prayer only. You don't resolve it through having meetings and conversations and talking about unity and all this kind of stuff and reconciliation. You don't. I'm 63 years old. I've seen this stuff all my life, all my adult life, and that stuff has never helped. It's never helped just to pray and have a meeting and a conversation and talk about reconciliation. Listen, you can't reconcile until you have conciliation. Conciliation is addressing the issues. When you've addressed it, then you can reconcile. The issue is not racism everywhere. It's racism by people in power, white folk primarily, white folk almost exclusively, against black folks and other racial minorities. Now, white folk don't feel bad about that because most of you are not doing that, right? So, if it don't hurt, don't holler. But I dare say, you might know a racist. Listen, if you're a white person and you know somebody who's spoken against black people, you've heard it. I've heard it. You got to deal with that. My suggestion is we need to hold each other accountable. I've been saying it for years. I've said it every day, it seems like the past few days and weeks. Because if in my circle, if I'm aware of bigots, and yes, and black folk can be bigoted and racist to the extent that they are, I'm going to deal with it. You're not going to be in my presence. You cannot come into my presence and call white people like they're white devils. That's a big one among black folk. White people are devils. No. Don't say that. Don't act on that. Don't carry it out of my presence. If I don't speak to it, who will? So then, as white folks, again, I'm speaking to Americans, on Facebook here, but wherever you are in the world, if someone in your presence, within your sphere of influence, is saying things that are wrong and racist and bigoted, you got to deal with it. You can't pass a law to stop people from being racist. That police officer who put his knee on the neck of George Floyd, who tortured and killed him in broad daylight in front of everybody, that man had 18 so complaints on him. Somebody knew he was racist. It was known, but nobody that I'm aware of dealt with him. I mean, listen, if you know of somebody who, again, has these attitudes and who's spoken things to you, out of the heart, the mouth speaks. And once a person begins to speak that way, they are likely to act in that way when under pressure. These cops who kill black men and such, what happens is they get mad. That black guy ticks them off. He doesn't comply. He's resisting arrest, whatever. He's got attitude. And that's enough to make some of these guys, whatever's on the inside of them, they just lose it. They basically lose it. And that racist spirit in them takes over. And they just go crazy. Quick story. I'm talking. I'll keep talking. I'm here. All right. This happened to me. Some years ago. I forget, about 4 or 5 years ago. Listen, I was leaving McDonald's drive-thru. And I was heading out and I made a left turn. There was 2 turn lanes, one for right and one for left, okay? And there was a guy, there's 2 of us. I'm on the left and on the right. A white guy in his car on my right who should have been turning right. I'm in the left turn lane, I'm turning left. So I turn left, then he turns behind me, all right? And this guy speeds up and gets right behind me, flashing his lights, like he's coming after me, okay? So I said, what is this? So I stopped the car. And I got out the car. I went back to him and said, man, what do you want? You got a problem? He said, yeah, you turned in front of me. I said, dude, I was in the left lane. You were in the wrong lane. You were in the right lane trying to turn left. He thought I cut him off. That's what it was. He thought I cut him off. But he was wrong, okay? Now, understand, I'm a kind of person where I'm not a fearful kind of person, and I'm not crazy, and I know when to confront, when not to. But this guy was crazy. Now watch this stuff. So then, when I went and talked to that guy, I saw the spirit that killed George Floyd. This guy began screaming. He had blue eyes. The white part of his eyes became bloodshot. He was so angry, so full of rage at me that he could not even remember or know he had done something wrong. All he knew was, this Negro cut me off. But I didn't, right? And so he said, get back in your car. I said, I'm not getting back in my car until I'm ready to. I want you to understand what you did. And that had I been a different kind of person coming back here, you could have been shot. You could have been harmed. Do not run up on people unless you're prepared to do something. Do not run up on people, especially black men, because, some of us are not going to tolerate your attitude, all right? So this is the kind of stuff we deal with, okay? And so God has given me the grace and the boldness to talk to folks. Now, I don't know what he thought after I left. He had a little girlfriend in the car, his wife or somebody. But I'm thinking, you know what? I hope I helped that guy. And I'm sure once he got over that little rage he had, and his eyes went back to normal, he probably thought, doggone it, he was right. That black man was right. And had that black man not have been the kind of black guy, who could talk and reason, I could be hurt or dead right now. Okay? So that's a long way around of saying you've come to the kingdom for such a time as this. And I believe we're going to resolve racism one person at a time, holding people accountable. You can't pass a law to stop racism. Now we can pass laws to punish racists. We have laws to prosecute. I mean, that cop in Minneapolis is being prosecuted. Justice is being served. All right. But my message to you today is going back to Esther. You've been put in position. All of us are in position to do something significant, something helpful, something, it may not seem at the moment to be even historic, but believe me when I tell you, your influence can make a great difference, especially over people you know. People in your spheres of influence, whatever you say will weigh on their mind. Amen. So God bless you. Have a great day. And let's well, we can't stop racism, but let's put a big, gigantic dent in it by holding people accountable so they won't go out and do something damaging, something harmful, something stupid. All right? God is good all the time. Have a great day. God bless.